Okay. Well, thank you for asking me. And, it is a real privilege to be here. I meant,
Who are you?
oh, I'm Carol, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Carol.
You all know that. No. When they asked me, and they said June 10th, it really didn't register until I thought about it for a while, and I really, since this is Founders Day, it really is meaningful to me that, to think about what happened previous and just the little turns here and there, What if Bill would have stopped on the third number? What if he would have stopped on the fifth number? But no, I think he went to the 8th or 10th. I can't remember which one right now. But he went on. He didn't stop. And, that's that grace that we get that we don't even know we have. I've heard it talked about a lot of times as X factor, unexplainable. And so when he went and talked to Bob, they became the founder and co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is like, and it was a woman that helped him. I just want to say. Okay. I love this program. It saved my life. It saved my life twice. And, when I got here, I wasn't one of the ones that skipped and sang through the door. I brought somebody else. I brought my husband, who was the real alcoholic. And, he went to treatment, they give you this paper to sign. And I can't remember if I even filled out my whole name before I said, what am I writing? I'm not the alcoholic here. It's his problem. And so, we were living with my grandparents. We didn't have a car. His father had to take us. That woman there was like a baby. She couldn't even walk. And when we got in the treatment center, I handed her to God knows who, and I didn't see her again till I left. And, but I thought we were all right. I was managing well. And they hooked me up with Al-Anon there. That's what they did in that treatment center. And they had me call before I left the treatment center. And so the lady from Al-Anon, Doris, who's gone now, she and Claire were quite active in Skagit County in recovery. And so I thought, well, I was with my grandmother. She had to come out like 20 miles to get me. And I thought, well, Grandma's going to have the kids, 3 kids at that time. And we can go do something after the meeting, after this Al-Anon thing. Well, now knowing Doris like I do, that's very laughable. She would have never done anything like that. But, it's the people that have gone before me, and there are so many. There are so many that have helped me to be standing here right now. And, even the ones that, I'm going to read you this little thing that is so true for me today. What I went through happened. Who I was existed. I needed my past and I needed my mistakes to get me where I am right now in Alcoholics Anonymous. I couldn't have gotten here without them. and it took every single thing. So I love my parents. They did the best they could with what they had. They're both gone now. And so I very briefly, what it was like. I was born to a 16-year-old mother, and she had 4 of us. Me, I'm the oldest, and my 3 brothers. And so she was 24 when my father was killed in a logging accident. He was hoot owling, which means you go up in the woods because it's hot out. The rigging causes fires, all that. And he was setting chokers. Well, you don't set chokers having drank all night in the day before. And so he didn't come home. So my mother had 3 boys and me, and she was 24. And I was just drinking good when I was 24. And she just, that's what she did. She didn't know what to do. So I became a young mother. Some of my very first meals, my brothers can still remember to this day, but we all lived through it. And my mother had 6 more children after that, of which I'm the oldest. That's why I'm the shortest also. But those days were, one of the things I'm looking forward to is I would like to be able to sit down and talk to both of them, just talk. That never happened in our house. So, going on, my mom drank a lot. I'm not going to say she's an alcoholic, but she definitely drank like one. And my dad made home brew, and he had I remember when you got one of those machines and you like you're siphoning gas, you siphon it out and put the hose in the bottle and then the foam comes up. Well, I got stuck the foam off the bottles because he had a bottle capper, and I was the oldest. So that had to be before I was 6 because he died when I was 7. So, just those kinds of things. It was always with me before I was even born. Alcohol has been in my life. So, what it was like, what happened, I drank like a pig. That's what happened once I started. And so when I was about 13, which I believe was probably when my mom really started having a hard life. My mom and my dad were both only children. And my dad was adopted. And my mom and her mother did not get along. So there was always some kind of tension. And so Mom moved us all to California, away from Grandma. And they had a farm. I mean, probably one of the reasons I was so healthy when I stopped drinking is because of my grandparents, because they had a farm. We didn't eat candy, we didn't eat drink pop, all that. We ate farm food. And so after we moved to California, life was traumatic and hurtful. That's all I can say. My mom, I didn't go to the 8th grade. I didn't complete the 8th grade. My mom made an arranged marriage for me when I was 13 for all different kinds of reasons. And for her. And that started for me 6 years of, if I thought it was bad at home, it was way worse in that situation because I was kind of like a hostage. I was young, I was cute, and I was on his arm, and he drank. He was definitely an alcoholic. I guess the thing, You know, God does for us what we cannot do for ourselves. And God has protected me every step of the way. And I didn't have any children during that marriage because he had a lot of physical problems along with his alcoholism. I became a workaholic. I worked, and I could be in a whole nother kind of world and just, everything was fine at work. But I look back on that, and I didn't realize it at the time how much grace was given me, really. I worked the whole time. I worked for an ad dentist. A woman named Esther Ford hired me when I was probably 17 as a dental assistant for this ad dentist in San Francisco. I had absolutely nothing. I mean, I knew we had teeth. But she saw something in me. I interviewed for that job. I didn't have any idea what I was doing for Dr. Orwitz. I remember that, and I worked there for 2 years. And one day she brought me in this pup, a little black pup. And I said, I don't want this dog. I can't have this dog. And actually, I was afraid to take the dog home with me because I really didn't know what was going to happen to the dog. But she says, you take this dog, and if you can't have it, then you bring it back to me. You know where I am. She was at work every day. And so I kept that dog, and that dog came to Washington with me when I escaped from San Francisco, literally escaped. So, that fear and anger and all of those things really just propelled me forward. And I really was under the threat of death at that time. I mean, he really wanted, if I can't have you, nobody can. If you're not going to drink with me, I had made a pact with myself that I was not going to drink no matter what. And I didn't at that time until I came back to Washington. And so I took the dog, and I left every single thing in that house. I just walked out of the house like I was going to the grocery store. And went to the airport, ditched the car in a parking lot on Market Street, took the key with me. And when I got to the airport, somebody paged me, and I thought it was him. I thought he found me. So just like in that movie, I stood up on the toilet seat. I was so afraid that he was going to find me. So I missed the plane to get to Washington. But I wasn't drinking then. That was totally fear and anger based is what propelled me to do everything. I mean, if I had been drinking then, I seriously doubt I would be here today. Honestly, I seriously doubt that. So once again, God was doing for me what I could not do for myself. So my dog made it to Washington before I did. I had to go claim him from the special place. And when I got to Washington, my mother was getting married. And I went to the wedding, and we were driving up South Skagit in Skagit County. And as usual, I was always the driver, and they always passed the bottle around, but I never took it. Because I was the driver, I never had drank before. But this time when they passed the bottle, I took it. And I kept it. And so that was the first time I really, really drank. And I had a 3-day blackout at that time. And they threw me out of the car in my mother's yard, and I went in and drank some cold milk and orange juice and threw up all over the floor. That was my first exciting experience. I have no idea what happened in that 3 days. So You know, I come from a family of drinkers, and everybody was really happy that I finally quit being such a goody two shoes. So, you know, that desperation that they talk about, trying to quit drinking, I had that just to, just forget, just pretty much be in oblivion most of the time, honestly. So I drank from 19, from the age of 19 till age of 34. I had all of my children drinking. My first son died at 4 months old, and I didn't quit. I slowed down. So, when they say that that phenomenon of craving, I didn't give myself an opportunity to have that at that time. I just was drinking all the time, and people saying, "Yeah, you have every reason to drink." Of course, So on through, I just had all the kids, divorced their dad, divorced my first. I have kids by 2 and 3, and my first son died in the 2. So I always married people who drank. I can't imagine. Water seeks its own level, and I didn't know anything else really, or did I think I deserved anything else, honestly. So when I really started drinking, I went up to Alaska. I was sent up to Alaska with my first husband, or my second husband, and from the employment agency in Skagit County, we went up to Sitka, Alaska, because they were opening a restaurant up there, a steakhouse, Norman Carolyn Steakhouse. And I fell off the plane. I mean, I just went shooting across that airport like, because of course I wanted to look good, so I was probably wearing shoes like this. I can't remember, but when I got to Alaska, I didn't know what drinking was yet. Let me tell you, I drank. I went in that little liquor store. It was like just a little room, and there was a light shining behind the bottles, and they were just like jewels. Boy, I'm going to have everyone. No kids. I said I wasn't going to have any kids, and I hadn't had any yet then. But up in Alaska, we worked, made lots of money up there, drank, and one day my husband called me and he says they had there's only like, I don't know, I can't remember how many miles, but it's not very many miles of road, a highway up in Alaska. And at the end of the road, there's a bar that stays open all the time. So, my husband and I were working different shifts and that, and I thought, well, we're just not seeing each other. I mean, we're drinking. Calls me up and he says, I says, well, where have you been? And he says, well, I'm down at my mother's down in Washington. Where have you been? And I says, well, why didn't you tell me you were leaving? He says, well, I did, but I didn't remember it. And so that's how it went in that time. I didn't remember a lot of things because I was a blackout drinker. So, that we came, our lives are unmanageable. We are powerless. That is true. Sanity. I had no idea what sanity was when I got here. It was like this book was French. All these words in here. I had to have a dictionary, and people had to point things out, and getting through the wreckage was pretty, pretty emotional. I wanted to hang on to it because I didn't know anything else, you know. So when I stopped, like I said, I took my husband, the 3 kids' dad, to treatment. And he got out of treatment, stayed sober for a little while. We went to some AA meetings together. And I went to Al-Anon. And I went to AA for him, you know, to be a good wife. Well, I got AA, and he died of alcoholism in 2019, I think. And so that's another thing of the X factor. How do we know? Why couldn't they get it? And I quit. I quit trying to figure all that out. You know, made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. I had been going to church and gone forward many times and asked to not drink, but I would drink again. So I really, truly believe that God got me here. You know, this is where it worked for me, and it has. So my inventory, 4th and 5th step, the best of my ability, I did. After much prodding, after going out after 3 years and coming back, is when I did as thorough a 4th and 5th step as I possibly could. And the people stayed with me. They came to my house when I did the 6th and 7th step. And she says, now, I want you to, somebody already mentioned this, I want you to take a walk. I want you to go over what you said, your character defects, you know, and ask God to remove your character defects. And at that time, you know, I was willing because I knew that I was going to die of alcoholism. Because the second time back, it was hard. Like, I didn't go to treatment. And so I totally get what you're saying. When you go through that twice, people from AA come and stayed with my kids. It was on Christmas Eve. I didn't tell you my sober date is December 24th, 1983. And it was cold and snowing then up where I was living. And I called somebody that I'd sponsored 3 years previous. And she brought 2 other people, one big, old Jim. And she knew I wouldn't say no to him, that I would get in the car. So they came and they stayed with me. So I really, the 8th and 9th step, you know, making amends. I have made amends. My mother, to the best of my ability, my kids, you know, and I'm always open. I'm always open to continue that. I just went back to Texas last Christmas and talked to one of my sisters. When I got here the second time, you know, I was as willing as a dying can be, it says in there. I knew what that was. I knew that I had it. And, you know, you become what you fear. Or, you know, that what you fear, you become. And I'd become my mom and every alcoholic I'd ever known, for sure. So I really am thankful that I got here. Doing the 10th, 11th, 12th step, I pretty much, I do that every day. It's kind of like automatic. I really feel like I went back out because I sought through prayer and meditation to make conscious contact with my higher power. I quit making conscious contact. That conscious, you know, conscious thought it was really important. And so I thought today, I thought this week of calling and canceling because I'm moving, or my place is in renovation, so I had to move everything. And on the way here, my eyes were burning because they put in carpet and laminate flooring, and I've slept there for like 2 days. But it was so good to sleep in my own bed. So I thought, oh God, I don't know, I just can't get this. But I was taught, you know, you got to give it away to keep it. And so I'm so thankful to be here. So how much?
4 minutes.
Okay, so I'm going to read this from Bob, and I'm going to close with that. It is the most wonderful blessing to be relieved of the terrible curse with which I was afflicted. My health is good, and I have regained my self-respect and the respect of my colleagues. My home life is ideal, and my business is as good as it can be expected in these uncertain times. I spend a great deal of my time passing on what I learn to others who want and need it badly. It is for 4 reasons. A sense of duty, it is a pleasure, because in so doing I am paying my debt to those who took time to pass it on to me. Because every time I do it, I take out a little more insurance for myself against the possible slip. And, you know, this is a spiritual program, not a religious program. It's an inside job. It's like, you know, you can try. I tried on my own in many ways. I stayed sober for 19 years on my own, but I wouldn't want that life for anything. But I made it through by the grace of God, and I am so glad that all of you are here, because we all have just one day, this day. So thank you all for coming, and it is a real pleasure, and hope you keep coming back, because it works.